morning. If you are dragging yourself away from the watch along that is currently still going on, as far as we are aware, welcome. It is the pre-match program show where we build up our hopes and dreams to preferably not be dashed on the rocks of anticipation. We are going to play West Ham away. Sometimes that's been a tricky fixture, but who knows what Arne Slot and what records he's breaking for us. So it's all a whole brave new world as we come into the new year. We're joined by Brian. Brian, how are you?
Doing great.
Let us look at the lineups because there's no real surprises from the Liverpool side. It's pretty much everybody except Núñez out and Diaz in. My feeling, Brian, and let me know what you think. My feeling is that is the best lineup we could put out there, with the exception of maybe a 100% fit Jota. But even then, Diaz does that 9 role very, very well. So nothing to complain about right now, really, have we?
No, there's nothing to complain about. The only thing I think probably the only thing I would complain right there is that yellow card that Szoboszlai got right there, because I think it kind of messed the rotation up a little bit. And I did think that that Szoboszlai, and this is a type of match where he would have made a lot more impact on it. But I'm happy that Curtis is in there just the same.
The back four is as expected: Robertson, Van Dijk, Gomez, and Trent, and Alisson in goal. We discussed the hullabaloo around Trent Alexander-Arnold there just before we went on air, but we should be able to trust him to keep his head down and do his job, shouldn't we? I mean, Trent is no issues. Maybe we are projecting onto him at times when he's not having a great game, the whole Madrid Farrago, but really, with the occasional mistakes which he would have anyway, he hasn't been letting us down, has he?
No, not at all. I mean, I think some of his, once he's came back, I think some of his passing has been pretty nice. I mean, the corners right there were kind of like in the last match right there that he took on there. But I mean, I think that Trent is an integral part of the side at the moment. I mean, especially without having a Bradley to kind of compliment him, we have to go in there and want the best out of Trent. I mean, I think that Arne Slot has actually definitely showed that he has helped him in his defensive responsibilities as much as he still has the offensive threat that he gives out to us.
And now, speaking about people who never let us down, let's bring Sir Z in. How are you, Sir Z?
I'm good, fellas. How are you?
I was doing great until I saw you. You've clearly betrayed us on the Bald Head Club with the head of hair there, making us all jealous for the new year. How dare you? Looking at that line now, we just talked about the defense there. We were talking specifically about Trent. But on the other hand, Robertson, he doesn't let us down for effort, but his reaction times are getting slower. Is this a concern, do you think, against this West Ham team?
Yeah, it's always a concern with any team. I think he's shown it's just unfortunate. Some of the mistakes that he's made has cost us in regards to penalties and obviously conceding goals. I think it's just a bad run. I think his game time needs to be managed. But it's funny what you're saying, especially after the whole Trent, supposed news came out, with, Marco trying to stir the pot. It's like we got fans on one end who are berating Trent for wanting to leave, and then on the other side you got the other fullback where the fans are trying to get rid of Robertson and telling him to get out of our club, and they've both achieved the same amount of medals and wins for us, and they've both been integral to our success in recent years. And it's just and it just goes back to the point, the players will only be as loyal as fans are loyal to them. And, we can't expect, if Trent wants to move, good on him, he's won everything. I don't think it's going to, if he has decided to leave, I don't think it's going to be detrimental to him this season. I think we're in the prefaces of doing something that we've never done before. And I know we're talking about the quad before and so forth, but we're literally the best team in the world, club-wise. We're sitting on top of the league, sitting on top of the Champions League, and it's not just me being a Liverpool fan saying that. The facts are facts. And if you can win Premier League and Champions League twice. That's twice more than Steven Gerrard, and players, prior to Klopp taking over, and same as Andy Robertson, and they'll go down as legends. Even Nunes, if he stays and we achieve what we're potentially projecting to achieve, even Nunes will go down as a legend with this squad. So yeah, I've got no problems with Trent, and I don't think he's going to take a back seat or give us subpar performances. I know he might have a bad game and we'll all be oh, boy, he's up to Madrid, and that's why. No, he's entitled to a bad game just like Salah is, and but yeah, it is what it is.
Brian, the centre half pairing. I was going to say centre parting there, looking at Susie's hair and knowing that I can. I can do a centre parting. It's just 2 miles wide. The centre back pairing: Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez. We may have conceded like that early goal there to Leicester at the beginning of the game. But otherwise, that's a solid pairing, isn't it? Maybe Gomez doesn't have the overall soap opera drama of the attacking play that Konate has, but we discussed this the last time. He just doesn't let you down, does he? He's a player you don't want to lose because he does. He's almost like the Joey Jones of the 2020s. You put him anywhere and he'll do the job for you. You may not get the most spectacular job that's noteworthy, but you're going to get something solid in there and you can build around that. So we really shouldn't hold any sort of trepidation about this centre-back pair, should we?
Oh, not at all. I think that Joe Gomez is the utmost professional. He basically, you can slot him anywhere across that back line, and he'll just do a game for you. He's kind of like how Milner was with across our midfield right there, and actually going back into playing as a right back, left back. Those type of utility players are so useful, and there are not very many of them left in the league and in modern football. Because everything's so specialized now. Where I'm glad that we were able to keep Gomez in there. I know he wants to play, and that he deserves that respect of being to play, especially at his age. But right now, you think that Gomez is technically right there at his peak, or right around that point where he should be at being a starting center half. I know we had him when he was young, and we had a lot of different mixed opinions about him right there. But young defenders is kind of like the whole Kwanzaa situation right there. You have to figure out that defenders, when they're young, are going to make mistakes right there because they take a little bit longer to learn their trade. But I'm perfectly happy with this pairing. I think that Konate is going to have a little bit of a number trying to get back into the side at the moment.
Susie, let's move into the midfield. McAllister, Gravenberch, Jones. I think it's probably the best balanced midfield we can get in terms of every one of those three can do all three roles. They can be the number 6, the double pivot, or they can be the 8 box to box. We don't get that so much with Szoboszlai, although he gives us a lot more in terms of energy. But in terms of being able to rotate that midfield in play, sending 2 forward and keeping 1 back, that's as balanced as we can make it, isn't it?
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think Curtis Jones plays by default because I think Szoboszlai would have played today. So bearing that in mind, it's it's the best midfield we have. With the players that we have to choose from, and McAllister and Gravenberch have pretty much got the positions nailed on. So again, it's just up to Jones has got this chance to prove himself. He doesn't really need to prove himself, but he's got his chance for another game and show why he should be fighting for that spot with Szoboszlai. But yeah, it's a good midfield. It's the best midfield we can put out there, and it's it's not, oh my God, Jones is playing. No, it's Jones has something to offer as well, and as well as goals. He comes out with a goal or 2, which is great.
Brian, the front three: Gakpo, Diaz, Salah. It just screams movement. It just screams technique. It just screams long shots from outside the box. Now, when we look up at the West Ham lineup, our live score has them as playing a back 5. So that ability and willingness to take shots from outside the box, that could become a very important tool in the armory today, couldn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think, and I do like how I do think this is our strongest top front three at the moment. I mean, I think that, and I think everybody pretty much on our whole channel agrees with that. Maybe except for Adnan, but we know how that is. But Gravenberg right there. I mean, sorry, Gapco right there on the left, right there with his moving over, and I think he's a really tricky on the left side where he plays differently. Where Diaz is a little bit more predictable. And I think that Diaz up through the middle gives you another option because I think his runs come with it and work better. Like kind of like what Sir Z was saying with there. I wish Sabazai was there because I think that he opens up more space for Diaz in this type of lineup. But I think that Curtis will do a good number with it also. But yeah, I mean, and Mo, I mean, what you can't say anymore about Mo. I mean, basically right now we're pretty much dependable on Mo having a good match right there. Because if Mo doesn't have a good match, we probably really don't win these matches or we draw these matches. I mean, he's on another level at the moment.
So see with Diaz there in the number 9 spot, and then rumors today that Nunes is being hunted by AC Milan, and one of those ridiculous Italian deals where they give you, half a Snickers and 5 million euros, and then they may pay the rest of it later on if they're happy. But yeah, that envelope of money is going missing somewhere along the way, Sopranos style. Is this an indication that even Slot doesn't see Nunes as the starting forward? And if so, being the most expensive signing, the logic is that he is going to get moved on and we're going to get somebody more in tune with how he wants the game to be played.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably the only one left on the Nunes bandwagon, I guess. And even then, like, it's hard to keep supporting him. We're talking about his confidence and so forth, but we literally are the best club team in the world. And if you can't give us what we want, being in that team, and you haven't given it to us when we weren't the best in the world, then there's really, it's just down to the player at this stage. I think he's got enough support. I don't think we'll sell him in January. I don't think we're going to cut ourselves short up front, especially knowing that, who knows, Chiesa might be going out on loan, or he just might get sick again and be out for another 4 months. Like,
who?
And exactly. And we know about Jota's injury record, so we'd be stupid to let him go in January unless we have a good replacement, which I know we won't get. So yeah, in the summer for sure, I think it's time to part ways with him. But yeah, I wouldn't sell him in January. He still has something to offer, and you can't cut ourselves short.
I mean, he's not a bad worker. He's a great worker, and that's exactly why we wanted him to work for so long. But it's Liverpool Football Club. We're top of the Champions League. We're top of the Premier League, and by a little bit of a distance as well. Not a huge one, but enough that if the rising tide does raise all ships, it hasn't raised Nunes to the quality that we expect at Liverpool. I mean, he's kind of hamstrung, isn't he, by the fact that we've had, Dalglish, Wush, Torres, Fowler, Owen, Salah, Firmino, Mane. It's a tough act to follow, but you got to follow it, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, you consider we'd had players like Littman and Morientes, and players of that ilk, like we thought, they were world class at the time, and they could make it.
Riedler.
Yeah, Riedler, another. Oh, he could head the ball. For such a short guy, he could head the ball. Yeah, I mean, but again, like you just pointed out, even Ryan Babel, who had potential, just players that can make it and players that can't, and unfortunately, just falls under that. Under the bracket. Dean Saunders, when we bought him, he was like British record at the time. And yeah, it's just we just force some people, and if you can't make it, your career kind of just tatters away, throws us away after that.
Dean Saunders, the Ricky Lambert of the 1990s. Yeah. Let's look at the West Ham lineup, and as I said, LiveScore has them as a back five and midfield four. Brian, I mean, you would expect that they are facing the league leaders. They are facing the Champions League leaders in the new super hyper mega global league format. So a bit of worry should be expected from their approach. But I don't think that's going to be far wrong. They really are going to sit back, aren't they, and hope that Bowen and Kudus can hurt us on the break.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
but what my point is, should we change our game plan to that, or should we stick with what we're doing?
I mean, it's Slot right there. I mean, if something doesn't work, he's going to change his game plan anyway. I mean, we've seen the tactics shift right in the middle of a half, right, of the first half a couple times. I mean, I definitely Kudos and Paqueta right there are just are somebody really to watch out for. I mean, as far as like their ability to make runs at us, and especially if that going up against that with Andy Robertson right there against Kudos right there could be a pretty interesting matchup to see how he performs. But I mean, they're going to sit back right there because they hit counters. I mean, that's all Lopetegui does. I mean, through there, which I'm really still surprised that he still has a job, but we'll see how that works. But you know, Jared Bowen has always been a threat. I mean, we kept him quiet the past couple of times that we played him right there. I think he scored on us last year once. I mean, but ultimately right there, I'm not so worried about West Ham. I mean, I think that yes, they have the ability to hit us, but I think that we have so many different options at the moment right there that I'm not concerned.
So see the goalkeeper, we talked about on the Discord channel in the Leicester game. The goalkeeper was a bit of a dropper, but it was in the fog, and we weren't taking long shots to test that goalkeeper. Areola has probably the best name, or the breast's name.
Well, he certainly makes a tit of himself.
He certainly does, yes. But is this a goalkeeper where we should be, you know, maybe that is the idea. Maybe having the three forwards that can take and are willing to take long shots are going to test this guy, especially knowing that we chase in every second ball. I think if we looked at the statistics, we probably score an inordinate amount of goals above average from rebounds, from goalkeeper saves and deflections. But I always like to think, you know, if there's a good goalkeeper in goal, you have to be a bit more thoughtful in your attacking approach. But if it's a weak keeper, you really have to just test them and put them under so much pressure that they collapse. Are we looking at a goalkeeper that's going to be nervous, or are we looking at a goalkeeper that's going to frustrate us and do one of those once-in-a-lifetime games against Liverpool that we're so used to over the decades?
I think over the last 2 seasons, we've put 13 past him. Like 5 last season in League Cup, again 5 this season in League Cup. I think we played him at home and we put another 4 past him. So he's probably crapping himself. But saying that, when we have like substandard keepers playing against us, we usually, for whatever reason, we choose not to test them, like Onana and, you know, last season at home, and we just like just let them be. It's hard. I mean, for me, just like a potential banana skin game for us, I think the way Lopetegui plays, it can frustrate us. It's a way we don't, you know, and maybe like Brian was saying, like just trying to counterattack us. They have enough quality to counterattack us. But yeah, we just need to kind of play like we did against Leicester for most of the game, without getting frustrated because we haven't scored. And the worst thing we can do, I think, is to concede first. I think that's the worst thing we can do against a Lopetegui team.
Brian, in the technically abandoned Thursday night show, I had a nice little graphic. For anybody who was waiting on that, it was nothing to do with us. American Scouts at TV was ready to rock and roll, but StreamYard unfortunately wasn't. So we will have to double up on the awesomeness next Thursday. But for the graphic for talking about the Leicester game, what I had was a superimposed average positions, and essentially the entire game was played in the Leicester half. Do you foresee the same situation in this game, given the way West Ham looks to be set up, where we're playing most of the game in their half? And is that a situation that favours us, whereas maybe under Klopp you'd worry a little bit the longer the game went on, because we were always susceptible to those breaks because we left so many gaps and relied on the offside trap so much? But under Slot, we're a lot more tactically sophisticated with that, and we can drop off early to see out the threats. But is this a game that's going to be played in West Ham's half, and it might become a war of attrition almost up front.
I can see it being that way. I mean, I think that with us with there, it's a lot more. We're more possession based football now. I think that being letting. It may be a mistake right there for West Ham to let us have the ball that much right there, because we do find slots. And I think that it's a difference between Szoboszlai and Jones also, because I think that Jones plays a little more. This could be a really good, like a Harvey type of match right there when he comes in that finds space and looks for areas to go to. Because like he's kind of like that niggly little player. I think him and Jones both have that, where Szoboszlai doesn't have it. But yeah, I can see it definitely coming there and sitting there. And I think the trouble also with West Ham is that Fabianski was their starting keeper, and I think that's a done wrap now for them. And having Areola right there is a drop down, is a little bit drop down of their quality of Fabianski. So I think that. That West Ham's going to want us to play into them so they can hit us on counters. But I think that our defense responsibilities with there are a little bit better with Klopp. I think. I mean, yeah, we've conceded a lot of some goals to this point, but I think that we're still. Our goal difference is plus 23. So I mean, it's like kind of tells you that even though we've dropped off a little bit defensively, we're still so much further right there as offensive. And I mean, and again, having players like Mo in there and Diaz and Gakpo in that front line, it might be a big mistake right there for West Ham to allow us to have that much possession.
So in terms of the mood of the game, well, I said the last game, I think we might be in the last game, complacency is the enemy, and I said it before that as well. And then Slot came out and said essentially the same thing. There was a period of the game where we just stopped doing the things that we're supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Slot doesn't seem like a manager who lets that message disappear in the ether. He's probably going to be reinforcing it day after day in training. If this is our blip, where we've sort of made it a little bit easier for teams, do you think there's a game coming, and maybe it's even today, where it comes back together again and we just dominate everything? We dominate the territory, we dominate the defensive exchanges, and we dominate the shots on goal. And to make a message to everybody for the end of the year to say, this is Slot's Liverpool. It's what's the Who lyric? It's, meet the new boss, same as the old.
Yeah, I think we'll dominate all the stats. My biggest worry is being intelligent enough to either, if they play with a low block, to try and break it and just keep that patience and not get frustrated. They have enough quality and pace to counterattack us and hit us. We haven't kept a clean sheet since Konate and Kelleher have been, gone, and and that's the key. If we can keep a clean sheet, it's less worry for us. I think we have enough quality to win the game. We just got to be patient, and we just got to, just not get frustrated within ourselves. I mean, if we don't get a positive result today, it's not because of West Ham. It's just Liverpool like imploding, and and hopefully it doesn't happen. And Slot's done enough to show us that his in-game management throughout the whole game, without having to make like big changes. Obviously, barring Kwanzaa in the first game, where he can manage the game throughout the game, and we're not having to wait till half time for him to get his message across. He changes it. He changes it within the game, and you see Virgil van Dijk as well. He's like an extension of Slot on that pitch as well. He tries to get messages across, and he's proven himself to be a good captain so far.
Now, speaking about changing games back and often and is necessarily done from the bench, so let us look at the subs. Wes Fotheringham there. That's a nice blast from the past name, but let's look at our boys, because that's the most important one. Danny Ings, just to get that, Danny Ings is on the bench there for West Ham, so maybe if we get 4-0 up, we'll let Danny have a goal for old time's sake. But on the bench, if we look from the defensive side, Quivin in goal, and for once we don't have two goalkeepers on the bench. That's a good thing to see. Costas, Kwanzaa, I don't think we can argue with those two being on the bench there at all. Endo, Elliott, and McConnell. I think McConnell has done quite a good job when he's come on. Not spectacular, but maybe you don't want those young players coming in and looking fantastic for 2 games, and then we never see them again. And then Darwin, Jota, and Jayden Danns, he's back. I love Jayden Danns, and I hope he turns out to be fantastic for us. But Brian, that is a solid bench, isn't it? And there are game changers on there if needed.
Oh, absolutely. It's kind of like I was saying earlier about Harvey coming in as a sub, because he does has some different options. And I think the same thing with Simicast right there. I mean, if we do happen to fall behind right there, Simicast is a lot more offensive minded than Robertson is of late right there. I think so. I think that's definitely some good options. I mean, even the same thing with Endo coming in. If we're up to a point where we start getting Endo just to close out matches. And then up front right there, I mean, Nunez right there coming in toward and causing some chaos toward the second half. Jota right there, a little bit more technically savvy right there, who can swap out with Diaz and move to either Diaz back to the left and sub out Gakpo. I mean, there's different options you can do that. I think that Dan's right there is on the bench right there just to be on the bench. I don't see him really getting minutes out of this match.
Now you say that, Brian. But who would you bank on scoring a goal more, Jayden Danns or Darwin Nunez?
Wow, that's a doozy right there. Yeah, I'm gonna give a 50-50 coin flip on that
one. Nice political answer. Susie, on that bench. Now, let's say it's a typical slot 2-0 type game. It's nice and evenly balanced. We're not under any real pressure. We're handling their attacks as well as we need to. We're not going all out to score 10 million goals, so we're controlling the game. I'm a huge fan of Wataru Endo. I think he's the ideal player for those kinds of games, isn't he? And if he was younger, you'd be looking to sell him on for the lack of game time. But for his age right now, he is almost the Lucas Leiva from a few years ago, isn't he? He's the player that has the experience to shore things up.
He does, but I don't think he gets on. I don't think Slot really doesn't play him unless he really, really has to. And I think you'll see him in the cup games for sure. I don't think he comes on today. I mean, obviously we see Jota. I think he might make a difference off the bench. But with Endo, yeah, I like Endo. I'm like he reminds me of Mascherano. He reminds me of Lucas Leiva, and Klopp was in charge, and they'll probably get a lot more minutes than Slot's giving him. But yeah, I don't know why Slot doesn't bring him on as much. He can, I thought for sure he'll come on against Spurs just to shore the game up a little bit and protect the defense a bit. But yeah, it just, I don't know, Slot just doesn't fancy him in the league for some reason, even though he comes out with his sound bites and talks about his professionalism and so forth. But yeah, I don't think he gets used enough.
We're getting some in the comments from Nick Fadley and Hassan here, so we're getting some score predictions. So before we sign off, we'll show Nick Fadley having a bit of almost a bipolar moment there. He has 1-1 or 4-0. That's a bit of a gap, Nick, but we hope you're right on the second one at least. And Hassan, I think that's a good point, Brian. Before we get your score prediction, a clean sheet would be a nice one for this game, wouldn't it?
A clean sheet would be amazing, because I think it would give us back that little bit of a consistency that we had going early in the season. But I don't think it's going to be a clean sheet today. I just don't see it. I don't see it. I just don't see it happening.
So give us your score prediction and who you think the impact player will be.
Going with the Tamushin special again, a 3-1. And I think the impact player, who's been the impact player this entire thing with there, is Mo Salah.
Susie, what's your score prediction and your impact player?
I think 2-1. Impact player, probably Diaz.
I'm going to go 3-0, and impact player is going to be Gakpo. That's my. I think the attention will be on Salah, and that's going to free up the other side. And if I'm wrong, I'll grow my hair out like Susie. I won't do that because there's no hair to grow. That would be just impossible. But thank you, Brian, and thank you, Susie, for joining us for the pre-match. There will be a post-match about 15 minutes after the final whistle on the other end of this. But let's all get our cups of hot chocolate, tea, coffee, or cans of Coca-Cola or whatever it is you're drinking. Beer, if it's early enough in the morning for you. And we will see everybody later. Let's hope for a fantastic game, and maybe we'll get that hat trick from Nunes that I've been asking for so long that I never get. How dare he break my dreams? But we will see everybody in about 2 hours ish. Have a good one. Have a good one, Brian. Have a good one, Suzie. Peace out. Here's the funky music.